Hey guys, it's Dawn with Wplus9, and I am back today with a duo of cards featuring one of our newest stamp sets from our April release, the Love Mom stamp set. This is a wonderful little $6 set that's perfect for all year round and covers all of those occasions that you might have for mom. As I mentioned, this is a mini set, so it's 3 by 4 inches, and it just at $6 is a great deal. It's got a lot of little sentiments in here. You've got the smaller ones in a typewriter font, and then you've got the larger ones in a script font. It includes things like "We love you" and "From all of us," so it's great for that one card from the whole family. There's also a coordinating Love Mom layers die. Now, this isn't a companion die, so you can't stamp onto it, but when you use these together, it's really a great way to stretch your designs and get some great looks. All of the dies, with the exception of the words, have this great stitching detail, and the nested shapes are great for creating those popular shaker cards. So for this first card, we're going to be doing some pattern stamping, and this is one of my new favorite color combinations. This is our Sweet Nectar, our Lake House, Wild Mango, Nautical Navy, and then Silver Lining thrown in as our neutral. I'm stamping onto our 100-pound white cardstock, and I'm going to be creating two 4-bar cards. So these are 4 7/8 of an inch by 3.5 inches. I want to create a repeating pattern, and when I do that, I like to create my first sub pattern, get that all arranged, and then I repeat that pattern over the rest of the background. So here I'm stamping out my cluster of flowers, and then I will do my next cluster of flowers. Now this just helps me to make sure that I keep it balanced and that I have enough room for each of my individual patterns within my whole pattern. Now that I've got a couple laid down, I'm going to go ahead and start filling in with my leaves. I want to make sure that I leave enough room for them. Now, instead of stamping these in green, I thought it would look a little juvenile if I added the leaves in green. So to kind of up it a little bit and make it a little more sophisticated, I decided to stamp the leaves in our nautical navy. And I love this look. This is something that I actually do quite often, especially in paintings and stuff. I like the odd flowers or the odd leaf colors. And then once I've got pretty much the rest of my pattern down, I can come in and fill in any gaps with this little button image. And for that, I'm again using the silver lining. I didn't want to detract away from the rest of the design, and I didn't want to add another color, so the silver lining was a perfect neutral to use. As I mentioned, this pattern is going to be tucked up underneath the card base. So we need to prep that and create that little pink scalloped border as well. Both of these cards are going to be top folding 4-bar cards, so I've got this cut to 3.5 inches by 9 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm just going to score this at 4 7/8 of an inch. And then I'll have a top folding 4-bar card. So once I've scored this, I'm going to go ahead and fold it, and then this panel will tuck right up underneath and peek out from below. In order for it to peek, we're going to need to trim off some of this, and we're going to use the landscape borders die to trim a little scalloped border off the bottom. Now I want to find out exactly where I want it to go, so I'm going to line it up on my stamp panel and see about how much I want to show through. And then I'm going to line up my card base and then just transfer over that border die there. I'm going to hold it in place with a piece of post-it note tape, and then I'm going to run it through my die cut machine. I think that this shaped border is a lot more fun than just cutting a straight line, and you could use any of your border dies that you have in your stash. So then once this is cut, carefully remove your post-it tape because that pressure will make it adhere very well, very well, and you could rip your paper. So just take your time. Now this will tuck right up underneath here, and then you'll be able to see that pattern paper peeking underneath. So I'm going to take this all the way up to the top so that when you open the card, there's no visible seam and it doesn't look like another piece of paper stuck there. I'm going to take some adhesive and just add it to the back side here, and I'm going to make sure to get right up against the curves so that none of that lifts. And then I'm going to take that panel and I'm going to line it up inside the crease here, right there in the fold, turn it on its side and just press it closed. Now there's going to be a little bit of overhang at the bottom, but that's easy enough to just stick in my trimmer here and trim off that little excess that's hanging out. And now when you open this up, you'll never be able to tell that there's another piece of paper in there. It looks like one seamless card. So for that little pink strip, we're going to use that same border die, but I want it to match that sweet nectar color. So I'm just going to do something that I do all the time, and that's just color my cardstock using our Pure Color dye inks. This is really easy to do with a sponge dauber. You could use a distress ink tool. You could also, if you're not patient and you're not one for tedious work, I actually really enjoy this. It took me about 45 seconds to do, so that's not terrible for me. But you could always just take the stamp pad and just swipe it directly onto the cardstock. I find that that lays down a lot of color though, and sometimes that takes a long time to cure and completely smooth out. For me, this is just as easy. So once I've got that all colored in, I'm just going to take that same die and I'm going to cut out a little strip to lay right on top of that seam. I'm going to run it through my die cut machine once, and then I'm just going to take it and shift the die a little bit. Now you could try to space this out evenly, but I wanted this almost wonky edge. I wanted it to be thinner on one side and thicker on the other. So I just kind of angled it a little bit and then ran it back through my die cut machine, and this is going to give me that perfect little border strip to add between the white card base and the pattern paper. Now this step is optional, but I think that it's just a little design element that really adds a lot to the overall design and finishes off that edge. So I'm just going to use my adhesive runner here. You could use liquid adhesive too if you prefer that. But I'm just going to use my tape runner to adhere this right at the edge of that scallop border, and then I'll just flip it over and trim off any excess that's hanging over the edge. So for our embellishments, I wanted to add some flowers, and I'm going to use the exact same technique. So I'm using that leftover piece with that sweet nectar already on it. I've added some lake house, some wild mango, and now I'm adding some of the nautical navy. And then I will just take these and die cut several of these flowers and leaves from this piece. This is going to give me a handful of embellishments to play around with and add to my card that perfectly match the colors that I did my stamping with. So now I have a handful of embellishments that perfectly match the colors in my stamping and that all have that same stitching detail running throughout. Now you could adhere these with liquid adhesive or your runner or whatever your preferred method is, but for these littler pieces I like to use the Xyron sticker maker. It's quick and easy, and I think it's great for these littler embellishments because it just turns them into these stickers, so you don't have to worry about the glue oozing out or anything. So I just use my tweezers to drop these into the mouth of the sticker maker machine. And you can fit a couple in depending on the size, but you can see here down there I can fit these littler ones all in side by side, so I'm not wasting any of the sticker material, I guess. But I'm going to drop them in, and then you're going to pull it down, and then I'm going to drop some more in here, and then I'm going to pull those through, and as I do that it's going to feed them onto the sticker sheet. I'll just keep repeating this for each of the embellishments, and then when I get to the end I'll just pull the whole thing through and then rip it off. So you can see here they're all together on one sheet. Now you'll want to take it just like it says on the top, rub and peel. So I'm rubbing, and that's making sure that the clear sheet comes into contact with that almost frosted sheet, because that's the part that has the adhesive on it. And everywhere that the clear sheet touches the frosted side, it's going to grab that adhesive. And when you pull it back, it's going to pull off all the extra adhesive, and the cardstock now has adhesive on the back. So now all of your little embellishments are stickers. So to me, this is just a lot easier when you have these small embellishments, much easier than going through messing with liquid glue. So now I can just pull all of these off and start arranging. Now I've noticed that this adhesive, it's kind of repositionable at first, and then the longer that it's adhered to something, the more permanent it becomes, in my opinion. I've tried to peel them off right away and it's easy. If I wait, like if I try to rearrange something like an hour later, it does tear the paper, so you definitely have some wiggle room. But again, your method of adhesive is really up to you. I'm just going to finish arranging this and getting it just how I like it, and then I can finish up with my stamping. And for that, I'm using the We Love You sentiment from the Love Mom stamp set, and I'm stamping that in our Sweet Nectar ink. I love this sherbety color combination. I can't tell you how much I love this. I want to make everything in this color. To adhere it, I'm going to be using some 3M foam tape. So I'm just tearing some off, adding it to the back side, and then I will adhere that to my card base. And that will pretty much finish up this card. Now in the next card, we're going to use all die cuts and a little fun, if not maddening technique. So I wanted to create this pattern out of die cuts instead of out of stamping. I just love the effect that it has. So I've done the exact same technique here. I've taken a full panel and I've covered it with some nautical navy, the wild mango, the sweet nectar, and the lake house. And then I'm going to die cut the flowers and the leaves from this several times. I know I'm going to need a lot of these, so I'm just going to go through a die cutting frenzy here. I want to do a dry run of my arrangement first without adhering anything down, and I need to do that on my card front since I have this edge here, the same edge that we used in the last card. So to do that, I'm going to hold the card closed temporarily with some temporary adhesive, and then I'm going to start laying out my design here. I'm not using any adhesive at this point, I'm just laying it all out. I'm going to start arranging my flowers, and once I've got everything exactly how I want it, I'm going to need a way to pick everything up all at once, add my adhesive, and then put it back down. And I tried this several times, several different ways. I tried holding everything together with post-it tape, with a big post-it sheet, masking paper. The problem with all of those was that I have a shape at the bottom here, and my card front is already cut down to size. So with those materials, they're opaque, and I couldn't see through them. So I didn't know where I was putting my design. I kind of had to go at it blindly. Now, if it wasn't already cut, I guess you would have been fine. However, I wanted to be able to see through because I'm kind of a perfectionist like that. So this press and seal worked the best for me. And this is something I think I saw Laura Basson do with selectively gluing parts of die cuts down. So I figured, why wouldn't it work for a pattern? It works, however, it's not perfect, and I'll show you what I mean here in a couple of steps that it kind of wasn't perfect, but it gave me the best results. So I'm going to lay this down over my pattern, and you can see that a couple of little things shifted from, the static. It's like saran wrap, it has static in it. So some of them jumped up onto it before I actually laid it down. But I'm going to use my tweezers to just kind of just shift things around a little bit where I can. At this point, it's not completely sticking to it. The press and seal has, once you make contact with something, it does stick. Some spots aren't completely contacted yet because I haven't smoothed it. Now that I have everything where I want, I'm going to go ahead and press everything down. Now, instead of trying to peel the press and seal back, I'm going to try to flip over the card and pull the card back instead. So this is what worked for me best because all of those little elements are stuck to the press and seal. So now it's easier to pull back the card than it would be to pull the press and seal from the die cuts, if that makes any sense. The die cuts are what's actually stuck to the sticky part. So now I've got my design transferred, I'm going to add some multi-matte adhesive to the back of each piece. And you'll see here when I flip it over in a minute, I missed a couple of pieces. That was a lot of little die cuts. However, I think that this design is completely worth this effort because I think this might be one of my favorite cards that I've made in a long time. So now that I've applied glue to most of my die cut pieces, I'm going to flip this over and you'll see one fell off, two fell off. So yeah, I missed those two, but I can add those back on afterwards. I'll be able to see where they're missing from. So now I can see through this to lay it over where I need it to be. I haven't pressed it down yet, so I can kind of do some fine tuning here. And once I've got it exactly where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and press my design down. Now, I tried to pull mine back right away. I would definitely recommend waiting like a minute or two and giving that glue some time to take hold because it's still, that press and seal, it's got a pretty good grip on those die cuts and it's going to want to pull some of them up. Now the ones that are completely adhered to the paper, they're staying down pretty well. The ones that especially are hanging off of the edge and so not much of the glue is in contact with the cardstock, those will want to come up. Like you'll see here in a second, this pink one up at the top, it's going to want to stay stuck to that press and seal. But overall, this definitely saved me a lot of time. Otherwise, I would have had to dry arrange this and then pick up each individual die cut and add adhesive to it and put it back down. Now, alternately, I could have fed all of these through the Xyron sticker machine, but then I wouldn't have had a chance to do a dry run. And once I completely remove all of this press and seal, I can go back and add any adhesive to any die cuts that I missed, which I didn't think I did, but I did actually miss quite a few. But this is much faster than doing all of them individually. Here you can see those, I didn't even get any adhesive on those at all. So, hey, only having to do a couple versus doing like all 20 of them, I'll take that. And once all of your die cuts are adhered, then you can just flip it over and trim off any of the excess that's hanging over the edge. So this particular design does take a little bit more effort. However, I definitely think that it's worth it. Like I said, I honestly think this is one of my favorite cards in a long time. I love the colors, I love the dimension. I just, I don't know. I love this card, and I hope you do too. I really hope that you enjoyed today's cards. I hope that you enjoyed the techniques, and thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, if you did enjoy, to thumbs up so YouTube knows that you want to see more videos from me. And you can find all of the supplies listed in the description box below, along with more information. You can also find this on our blog at stampawaywithme.blogspot.com. You can find all the featured Wplus9 supplies at Wplus9.com, as well as at many of your favorite retailers. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. Thanks, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.